Please join me in welcoming George Eustice, Farming Minister, here today.
And the first thing that I'd say is there is no easy way to take a really big decision in life. And it doesn't matter whether it's buying the farm, selling the herd, changing, diversifying into something else. Any big decision in life is bound to make people feel a little bit apprehensive. And I think it's a bit like that with the decision to leave the European Union. What I find as I talk to farmers around the country, and we're doing a range of these discussions, is quite a bit of excitement about the possibility of what we could do, but with a heavy dose of apprehension as well about how things are going to turn out. And I completely get that, and I understand that. And for me, we have to recognise, and I was on the leave side of the debate, but it was quite a close referendum result. And for me, as in politics, we have to read that result and recognise that people wanted to take back control, and they wanted to be able to make our own laws again and set our own policies again. But they did not want us to cut ourselves off from the rest of the world or cut ourselves off from Europe. They still wanted to trade with Europe, and they still wanted to have a close friendship and a close partnership. And the challenge for us now over the next 2 years as we get into these negotiations is to work out how we strike that right balance, how we take back control and re-establish ourselves as a fully self-governing democracy again, and have the freedom to do policies that work for us, but also how we maintain that good, close partnership that we want to have with our European neighbours. And also, when we come to think about what future policy could look like, I think we have to start with a hard-headed critique of why the common agricultural policy is really not working. And, you know, for me, having done 3 years as Farming Minister, I just concluded in the end that there must be a better way of doing things. There must be a better way of running agriculture policy, because in its current form, the common agricultural policy attempts to codify and regulate every landscape feature, every hedge, every tree, every gateway, every pond, and every conceivable thing that a farmer might try to do with their land. And the bureaucracy and the paperwork and the rules that come with that are absolutely stifling, and I think they're holding our industry back. And I often give one example of where the EU way of doing things breaks down in my view. And it's this: the more rules you have, the more rules you need in order to make sense of the rules you've got. And I see this every day in my life in DEFRA. And the example I give is, if you have a rule that says that woodland is ineligible for the single farm payment, the next thing you need is a rule that defines what woodland is. And so we have a rule in DEFRA that was discussed with officials that says woodland is if you have more than 100 trees per hectare. And then somebody said to me, well, what about young trees, saplings? Does that count as a tree? Surely that's different. So we had a rule that said what the maximum age of a sapling was before it used to be a sapling and started to class as a tree. And then we realised that you couldn't really measure that, so then we had to decide what the average girth of a trunk of a sapling is versus the trunk of a tree. And then somebody said to me, well, what about nursery stock, where you grow nursery trees as a crop and lift them by the roots and put them in pots and sell them in garden centres? That's different. Obviously that's different, so we created another rule that nursery stock's different if you lift it by its root and sell it on transplanted. And after having all of these rules and thinking that we had worked out every permutation of the woodland rule, a Christmas tree grower wrote to me and said, what about me? I grow a crop, it's Christmas trees, I don't lift it from the root, I chop it off at the tree. And all my lawyers came in and said, no, we haven't thought about this one, we can't do this one, that is woodland. And there's no way around that, so Christmas tree, if anyone's here, a Christmas tree grower, you do not qualify for the single farm payment, not for any rational reason, but because of the way the rules were designed. Now, if you step back from that, you have to just concede that that is a crazy way to run an agriculture policy. So I think we've got an opportunity to completely change the culture, to have a system that rewards farmers for what they're doing, to untangle some of the conflicting objectives that we've got in the CAP, and to have something that just makes way more sense at the end of it. So,
Tim Brown, being sheep farmer, you seem to have just focused on subsidies. My concern is trade deals. You know, we're going to get less subsidy, no matter what. You can't pay us enough money if we have nowhere to sell our stock. If you give us a bad trade deal with such as New Zealand or the Southern Hemisphere, the livestock industry is finished in this country. The trade deal is the most important thing in my mind. We don't want flooding with cheap imports.
Yeah. Well, the first issue that we've got when we trigger Article 50 shortly will be that exit negotiation. And the single most important element of that is the nature of a future free trade agreement. What the Prime Minister's made really clear is that while we want to be outside the common external tariff, we do want, other than that, a very comprehensive, very ambitious customs agreement with the EU, basically tariff-free trade with the EU, and minimal non-tariff barriers. I think that's really important, particularly for the lamb industry.
It's the Southern Hemisphere though. Europe's not a problem.
Well, Europe's a problem if we have barriers.
They'll want our lamb.
They will want our lamb, and that will be an easy deal to put together. The issue then, so is the other countries. It is worth noting that at the moment, New Zealand only use 75% of their tariff rate quota. That's the total amount of lamb they're able to send here. And the reason for that is long before the cap on the amount of tariff-free New Zealand lamb is hit, they actually find that there are more attractive markets to them, and they actually find that they cannot compete with UK lamb, given that they have to trek theirs across the world. So I think, yes, we have to be aware of this, we have to be conscious of this, absolutely. But effectively, even if there was no TRQ now at all, no restriction on New Zealand lamb, the evidence of the last few years is we would not have had any more New Zealand lamb than we have today, simply because that tariff rate quota has not even been reached. So we mustn't talk ourselves down and assume that we can't compete with New Zealand. Our lamb is a different type of product. It's a premium product. It's got better flavour. It commands a premium in the market. Arguably, we can't turn out volumes as consistently as New Zealand because of the broader mix of breeds of sheep that we have. But that doesn't necessarily matter. You know, we're selling a different product in a slightly different segment of the market.
Can I just add to Tim's question on trade? And the Prime Minister spoke about it this week in Parliament. Obviously, everyone here is farming to very high welfare standards. And what I hear from people here and elsewhere is this concern that we're going to let cheap, low welfare product into the UK, and that's not fair. It's not a level playing field. Could you talk a little bit about, is the government focused on that issue? Will it protect welfare standards in trade deals? And obviously the Southstall ban is a good example of something that we did early. Not all of Europe did, and then we're competing at a disadvantage relative to some European countries when it comes to pork. So we don't want that to happen on a global scale once we start doing all these trade deals.
No, I think that's right. And so this came up in PMQs, and the Prime Minister was really clear that we want to protect our food standards and protect our animal welfare. She raised it twice when it came up. I worked very hard when we did our manifesto for the last election to make sure that we got in there a pledge to promote high animal welfare in any trade deal that we do. That is a manifesto commitment that all of us, Rishi, me, every Conservative MP, whether they're in government or not, all of us stood on that manifesto. And I'm serious about delivering that, because I do think it is important that we don't expose our producers to food produced at lower welfare standards. Now, does that mean, and there are lots of ways of doing this, in trade deals elsewhere in the world, it is quite normal to say, well, we're not going to allow all of your beef in, but if you've got beef that is not hormone treated, that is pasture based, that has got welfare standards that is equivalent to our standard here, well, okay, we might let that be in. But I think if you look at the dairy crisis, there is a serious argument to be had here. If you look at organic dairy producers, they are the ones who held their own better than anyone else during this chronic downturn that we've had for 3 years in dairy. The reason for that is they had more of a brand that they were able to insulate themselves from the commodity market for. And what's so wrong about that? If it's possible and it suits your business model to make something of the fact and actually put a value to the fact that you are grass-fed and that's what the consumer wants, I don't think there's anything bad about that. And it's not something we're forcing people to do. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just saying that if a farmer who is running a system where he grazes his cows for half the year and over the summer, why shouldn't he be allowed to celebrate that to the consumer if that's what the consumer wants and make an extra profit for it? It's an option.
Actually say you would throw more money at them though, didn't you? And take it away from Mr. Simpson who farms.
No. We're saying you could.
You said it earlier on.
We're saying you could. No, you're saying you could incentivise it, but we're not forcing anybody to do it. You could incentivise it if there's extra costs to it. That's the case in a lot of these things.
Despite it, so we know that only 1 in 5 British food and drink producers are currently exporting. So how do you propose that you're going to encourage the farmers and exporters and newcomers to the market to export to new locations? And how do you propose to sell the Great British brand?
So we've got something called the Great British Food Unit, which has got a big focus on exports, and we do a lot of work, joint working with AHDB on this actually. And so we've now got somebody full-time in China, in Beijing, working on dealing with their bureaucracy to open up markets and to deal with things like export certification so that we can get more products into these areas. I was in the Gulf a couple of weeks ago where we ran a series of events to promote British lamb in particular in Kuwait, where we've just managed to get them to reopen the market for British lamb, and also in Dubai as well. So we do a lot of work trying to promote British produce overseas, open new markets, and crucially get key personnel into some of the larger markets to help us deal with the bureaucracy that you have in some of these countries to unlock the export certification paperwork that you need. So I mean, we want to do more of this going forward as well. It's a very important area, and I actually think in some sectors it gives you options for the 5th quarter that it adds value. So particularly in poultry and in pork, we know that for some parts of the carcass you can get a much higher value in Southeast Asia than you can domestically for parts of the carcass that end up in pet food here but are actually sold as a very different product in China. And there's an opportunity there to add value to our projects.
All right, go on quickly.
The second question someone asked is, so do you believe that providing incentives is the best means of preserving the countryside and also touching on the pillar of your environmental sustainability? How do you propose this to happen?
So, and as I said earlier, I visited the local nature partnership and a project they're working on to try to strip out some of the bureaucracy from the higher level stewardship or higher level countryside stewardship schemes now that exist in the EU schemes, and to look much more at whether we could have simpler schemes that reward farmers by the results that they get, that are less prescriptive, that are less about rules and people coming around with clipboards checking everything, and more about getting a few fundamental things right that make a big difference for the environment. And I'm quite interested in whether we could design something where you would incentivize a smaller number of more important things that actually lead to lots of other benefits, whether that's getting more grass lays in some of the arable areas, more livestock on the lowlands so you get better rotation, so you improve your organic matter in the soils, whether it is making these sort of higher level stewardship stewardship schemes work better up here more effectively and actually reward farmers for what they're doing. So I think there is a real role for incentives, yes, and payments for the delivery of these important services and sustainable agriculture. Okay, let me deal with the glyphosate first. The UK has always had the view that the evidence is clear that it's safe to use. And we've always argued that, and we've always voted that way, and we've always resisted political pressure. I get tens of thousands of emails on this, but we follow the evidence, we follow the science, and the science says that it is safe. Now, there was a threat last year when, because the German authorities did some analysis that showed it was safe, but there was a report that caused some concern coming from the UN, which led to a political push to ban glyphosate. When they looked at it, what they concluded is that the UN study was of a particular product that had other additives that might have caused a problem, but not the glyphosate itself. And on that basis, they've taken out some of those other ingredients, which fine, we can live with that. But our position has consistently been that we should, that glyphosate, we should follow the evidence, it's safe to use, and we should therefore continue to use it. The issue we had last year is that even though the German authorities did the work led on it to say it was safe. The German government then voted against glyphosate because the Green Party in Germany threatened to collapse their coalition if they didn't, and all this sort of thing. So that's the politics of the EU getting in the way of an evidence-based decision, but our position is clear, and I think we are probably out of the woods now. They are going to have another review, I think, in a year's time. But once we leave the EU, we will be able to do our own authorising.